Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. Government funding is set to run out yet again in less than 5 days. Republicans and Democrats are still billions of dollars away from reaching a deal. Now lawmakers must race for a solution to prevent a shutdown. So Melina, what can you tell us? What is the latest?
Well, it's looking like lawmakers are kicking this can down the road for at least another week. Senate Leader Chuck Schumer on the floor said that lawmakers should prepare to pass another extension for a short-term government funding bill until next week to give appropriators more time to reach a final deal on this. You know, the bill is going to be around $1.5 trillion. It's to fund a variety of government agencies as well as social welfare programs. But even if lawmakers do come to a bipartisan consensus on this by the end of this Congress, there's still going to be strong Republican pushback from some senators. Here's why.
We're going to get a 3,000-page bill that will have been given to us an hour or two before. I know, because this is the way it works every year. No one will read it. No one will know what it is. But what is a guarantee is that it'll add over $1 trillion in debt next year.
Where in 2 years we haven't had one discussion on budget mechanics or what we're going to do for the biggest business in the world that so many people look to. It is a broken system.
So those Republican senators are urging leadership to not pass a full-year funding bill. They want to pass a short-term solution that would just carry them into the beginning of next year. This way, Republicans will have more leverage over what goes in this bill once Republicans take the majority for the next Congress in the House. But Republican leadership in the Senate says they don't believe this is such a good idea because it would put a lot of pressure on Republicans in the House to negotiate this bill, and that will be especially difficult with such a slim margin that they'll be working with. Then you have progressives who are pushing for their own priorities, such as the expanded child tax credit and even immigration reform.
And we showed that the child tax credit worked to cut child poverty by 40%, to cut hunger by 32%, and we showed that the country is ready for immigration reform.
And Senator Bernie Sanders saying that he's worried about how extensive the future demands from Republicans will be.
Clearly, what I worry about is Republican efforts to hold hostage next year, if we don't get an omnibus bill passed, in order to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and that I will vigorously oppose. You got a lot of seniors out there.
And then you have a third option here, which would be to pass what they call a continuing resolution through next fiscal year. This would keep the government funded at the current levels through September of 2023. Now, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has repeatedly said that this is a last resort effort, and Senate Leader Chuck Schumer and Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell are on the same page here. They really do not want to do this continuing resolution through next year, and that's especially the case after the Pentagon sent the lawmakers a letter saying that this could have negative implications for our national security. But as of right now, it is looking like lawmakers will continue to negotiate how to move forward here, at least for the next 2 weeks. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
Will Senator Joe Manchin follow Senator Kyrsten Sinema's lead and leave the Democratic Party? Here's his answer earlier today.
I'll look at all of these things. I've always looked at all those things, but I have no intention of doing anything right now. I mean, whether I do something later, I can't tell you what the future's going to bring. I want to work with Kyrsten every day the same as I have before.
Senators Manchin and Sinema were seen as the two most moderate Democrats in the Senate, and the duo exercised enormous power in a 50-50 Senate, refusing to end a filibuster to pass Biden's priorities. While Manchin denies that he's changing to become an independent, he isn't shutting the door just yet, saying that it's only his mindset at the current stage. The FBI revealing that it has more information on Seth Rich. He was the former staffer at the Democratic National Committee, killed in 2016. The FBI says it has a laptop owned by Rich. It's believed to be his work computer. And the Bureau also has a report detailing forensic imaging of the computer. The FBI Records Office found the materials through an unnamed special agent while looking for the computer. None of these records were previously indexed to Rich. Authorities say Rich was shot when a robbery went wrong, but rumors persist that he was involved with WikiLeaks, and a Texas resident filed a lawsuit against the FBI requesting records on Rich. The FBI now wants the court to agree to keep the laptop shielded. They argue that it is not a subject to Freedom of Information request because it is physical material, not a record, and agents did not rely on it. There have been a number of court decisions on Second Amendment rights this year. As we speak, Oregon's gun control measure is challenged in both federal and state courts. Joining us next to discuss the lawsuits, we have Sam Paredes, a spokesperson for Gun Owners of America. Sam Paredes, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Sam, the issue of the Second Amendment makes its way in and out of the news cycle. There is a case right now in the state of Oregon that's underway that has many gun owners concerned. If you could tell us about what's happening there.
Sure. There were multiple lawsuits filed in federal court against Measure 114, which was probably the most comprehensive gun control measure that's been placed on the ballot countrywide this last election cycle. It has to do with magazines and training and permits required before you can buy guns and ammunition and all manner of other things. Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners Foundation decided to file a case in state court because we believe that it was a violation of the Oregon Constitution as well as the federal Constitution. And since the Oregon Constitution is analogous to the Second Amendment, we thought it was a good case to file. We did so. The lower court held in our favor and issued a temporary restraining order preventing the law from going into effect. This week, I believe we're going to have a hearing on turning that into a stay, a temporary stay, which will prevent it from going into effect while the entire legal process goes on. The state of Oregon appealed the temporary restraining order to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court said no. They rejected the request from the state to lift the temporary restraining order. So for now, Oregonians have their Second Amendment rights. They can buy guns and ammunition and magazines like they always have.
Now, do you see there being any national implications over this lawsuit?
Absolutely. Just because we filed in state court does not mean that it will not have a federal impact, because the arguments that are being used on this issue are the same ones that are being used on all of the federal lawsuits that are taking place. And frankly, there are cases across the country challenging onerous gun control laws that violate the Second Amendment and did not use the Bruin test of text, history, and tradition to decide those cases. So this is an important case. And if it had no national implications, the fact that it protects the Second Amendment rights of Oregonians, that is good enough. But we're happy to report that we believe that it will also have national implications as well.
Now, it seems as though it's been, for the most part, just a gradual march to restrict guns and gun ownership. Lots of playing defense, if you will, for, people that are pro-Second Amendment. Have there been any major wins for the Second Amendment, or is there anything on the horizon?
Oh, man. Thank you for the softball here. In fact, since earlier this year, when the United States Supreme Court ruled in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin case, where there was a challenge of New York's concealed carry weapons permits laws, the Supreme Court gave us a new standard. It used to be that judges across the country would use a two-step judicial process in order to justify any form of gun control that the government policymakers would come up with. Well, the Supreme Court said that the two-step process is now one step too long, that the only process they can use is to see if it violates the Second Amendment, then it is unconstitutional. Now, the Supreme Court said that this isn't a straitjacket on policymakers, but it also isn't a blank check. And the policymakers have been leaning towards the blank check side of the equation. And in fact, almost every lawsuit across the country that has been in play legal challenge on the gun control laws we have been victorious on, or are in the process of being victorious on, whether it's Colorado, Texas, New York, now in Oregon. We're winning virtually every test that has been put against the Second Amendment, and that is a beautiful thing.
St. Predes, really appreciate your insight. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
And more from Virginia, the final Confederate statue in the state's capital of Richmond has been removed. Efforts to remove the statues began in 2020 during the protests following George Floyd's death. This week, the statue of General A.P. Hill marked the last statue to be taken down in the Virginia capital city. Four indirect descendants of Hill challenged the removal because Hill's remains are buried under the monument. But a judge ruled against delaying. Hill was killed in the final days of the Civil War and was buried in 1891. His remains are now heading to a cemetery. The statue will likely be placed in a museum. Other Richmond Confederate statues have been moved to the Black History Museum and Cultural Center of Virginia, but Hill's descendants are appealing to move the statue near the cemetery. President Biden helps pack presents for children as the White House marks the 75th anniversary of the Marine Corps' Toys for Tots program.
But unlike Santa, you don't wear big red suits. You don't travel the world in just one night. Instead, you wear dress blues and army greens, and as Marines, soldiers, sailors, you stand watch around the world every single night.
Biden added that last year, the Marine Initiative collected 22 million toys for 8 million children, giving Santa a run for his money. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.